Hey there, everyone. Cynthia and Denise, the Midlife Mavens. So today we're asking the question, how do you handle midlife stress? It's very different than how you did it when you were younger, right? The stuff that comes at you, not that it has shifted that much, even though it has, it feels like it weighs a lot more on your shoulders than once upon a time. Where before maybe you had a little bit of stress and you could go to your favorite comfort food or some Pinot Grigio, a massage anymore, any of those tactics, they just feel like you need more of it in order to reduce the stress, to alleviate it just a smidge, only then for it to be piled back on with something else. So in midlife, we take on, some additional stressors, but there's also all of that like hormonal balance or imbalance that's taking place. It's causing us to be a little bit more aware of the BS that we once upon a time tolerated and we just feel like we can't any longer. And it's not that we can't handle the stress, we can. There's also different types of stress. On Mel Robbins' podcast recently, she was talking with two Harvard psychiatrists about the two different kinds of stress. We have adaptive stress, which is actually the good stress. That's the kind of stress that gives you like motivation to get out of bed in the morning and excitement to get things done. Not necessarily that you want to get the laundry done, but you want to wear your cute outfit. It's got to be clean. And then there is the maladaptive stress. That's the bad stress. That's the stress where things get heavier and can sometimes get a little bit out of control and lead to overwhelm. And what I mean by out of control is that those stress, issues, they're issues that you can't control. And they could be like, a tax increase on your mortgage payment. It could be that your parents have, health that's failing and it's not something that can be fixed with modern day medicine. Or maybe they just don't want to participate in it. You've got your kids' stress, that maybe they're an adult and they're supposed to be figuring things out on their own, and you've got to let them take care of it. These are all some of those bad stressors that lead to the overwhelm. I know, for myself, I've got plenty of those. I know, Denise, you've got some that you've experienced, recently that can feel a little bit overwhelming.
hmm Yeah, life is as life hard sometimes. And when we don't have good coping skills for that kind of stress, it can really take us out of the game. And when we're in midlife, we do find ourselves between probably navigating our children, even if they're young adults, and our aging parents. And then, you know, and we might not handle things the way we would like to have handled them. And so we then beat ourselves up. And then I find for myself, then I end up tending to not take any action. I become what is it, the word inertia, right? I
Yeah,
just sit and go, okay,
frozen.
I know I need to do something, but what is it that I need to do, or how
Mhm.
do I need to do it? And then what I have noticed is that then it kind of I can get a little angry when I look back at stuff. And when I do that, then I was like, oh, that actually gives me the good stress, the motivation to go, am I going to just sit here and pout and whine about it? Or am I going to do
Right.
something about it?
Yeah. I
You know,
There's nothing wrong with having that little moment of a pity party,
no.
thinking that this is difficult, this is challenging, I'm having a rough go, but staying in that space is not good. You know, so one of the indicators of taking yourself out of that space and out of that mindset is to actually go and do something
Mhm.
that might be considered stressful, like finally, getting those clothes out of the dryer and folding them, or meal prepping for the week, whatever it might be. It is to do something that would be considered a stressful thing, but that is within your control. It also helps you to kind of tick one of those things off of your box so that you finally go, oh, you know what, that wasn't as bad. That only took 5 minutes. What else can I go ahead and like take care of? Um, we've all had like some level of procrastination, and sometimes we procrastinate because it seems like it's bigger than we want it to be, or it's going to take longer, or it's not a fun task.
Mhm.
But taking care of it and, just getting it crossed off the list, re kind of relieves some of that pressure, that weight. It's
Right.
one less little pebble on the scale of,
Right. Was kind
yeah.
of like I always like look at it like taxes. And when we have to get our stuff together for our taxes, it feels like such an overwhelming
Yeah.
task.
Yeah.
And then every time I finish, I was like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad. Why did I make that such a big deal?" And part of it, I think, is, when I was a kid, you would hear your parents yell, "Oh my God, I gotta do," and
Hmm.
so you kind of take that kind of storytelling to,
Yeah.
carry into your own life. And so then you pick up the stress of that, and maybe there was a point in time you really would have gotten thrown in jail if you didn't pay your taxes, but that's not how it works these days,
Doesn't seem to. Lots of
And,
people who don't.
and, because but, when you're done, you're like, "Oh." So it's like those stupid tasks that you just leave undone, and then they're just hanging over your head, and you're like, "I know I gotta do this, I know I gotta do that." And it just keeps going from this day to the to-do list the next day and the next day, and then, and then you're like and then you forget about it kind of, but then it's still
It's
there
still
in the
there.
back of your mind waiting for you to tackle it, and you do, and then you're like and you feel like you could take on the world then because you're like, "Oh, I did it.
I
That
did it.
wasn't such a big deal." And because whatever I created in my head or whatever was so much bigger than what really
Yeah.
actually was happening.
Yeah. Inevitably, and this is where, like, taking that stress, adaptive or maladaptive, good or bad, and kind of reframing some of the narrative around it, and like Denise is pointing out, maybe it was something that was, ingrained in you from growing up. And so maybe like reframing that narrative and what does that look like for you instead of what did it look like for them? Or what does that
Mhm.
look like for you instead of what does that look like for your partner or your children? So that's also, I think, another way for you to better handle the things that, that we take on. Another thing is to prioritize the self-care. And I'm talking beyond the
Yeah.
Pinot Grigio and the face
Yeah.
mask or, oh, I'm going to sit down on the couch and I'm going to scroll on my phone for 45 minutes. Not that kind of self-care. I'm talking
Yeah.
about the self-care that it goes far deeper, and that is engaging in joyful activities, time
Mhm.
outside, moving your body. I'm guilty of it as well. I will tell myself like I need to go and do this or that, and then I'm like, well, I bet I don't have time. But here's the thing: I know when I make the time to take myself on a walk or just go sit out on like the rocking chair outside and on the porch, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then I like tell myself, I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? Like, why did I sit on the couch and play on my stupid phones?
Right. Well, and I think part of that is Gen X generation here where we're at, where it was
Really?
like if you weren't productive and proving your worth, then
Mm-hmm.
you were not worthy of anything. And so
Mm-hmm.
we feel guilty if we sit down. And the reality of it is that we have to have that downtime. We really need to turn it off. And self-care, I mean, there was a big trend a while back where, oh, manicures, pedicures, da da
Yep.
da da. Your self-care is about your mind, body, and spirit. And it's
Yes.
really connecting to yourself, to your spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is for you. Because for everyone it's different, and it's really connecting those pieces together because that's what's going to help you feel grounded when those maladaptive stress things come at you because they do. Like we can't avoid them.
Yeah. Those things are part of life.
Yeah.
Another good one is to set some boundaries, not
Mhm.
only with others, but with yourself. So
Yes.
with others, saying no without any guilt, but also telling yourself, like Denise said and pointed out, saying that it's okay for you to take a little bit of a pause and
Hmm.
without guilt and not beat
Right.
yourself up because you took some time out for yourself. Um, or that uh, did something that was fun instead of draining. I I agree with you about there are things that are, these bad stressors that we have, and they're unavoidable, whether it's the taxes or it's the cost of living these days. I know for me, that's like a huge trigger for me lately, is just how expensive everything is. I have to take myself out of it, because if I let myself get upset and more upset and more
Mm,
upset, I wind up being upset over stuff that wouldn't have been a stressor or a trigger or whatever, however you want to, label it. And
right.
so I know for me, that's like a big one of setting a boundary for myself, is I cannot allow myself to get so worked up over these things that are outside of my control.
Yeah. Because to me, it's, I can't remember when gas was 50 cents. I
Laughing.
know I'm aging myself a little
No,
bit.
I'm laughing because Jeff and I just had this conversation the other day about when it was $1. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. You have to just go, okay, well, gas costs what it costs now. And if
Mhm.
I want to drive my car, this is what I'm going to have to pay for gas.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just how it is.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it is, gas has gotten up. It like here in Arizona, I don't know. I think I paid 3.69 the other day for gas. It's a little up there here. I don't know what it is in the rest of the world because I actually don't watch the news. Because that is too stressful for me.
Same.
I know people would, think that that's crazy, but it's really just too much for me and I can't do
Hmm.
it, so I don't.
Hmm.
And I just look at it from the perspective of, how do I protect my peace? And that's my boundary for me, going back to what you said, how
Yeah.
do you set those healthy boundaries for you? Because boundaries aren't for pushing people away. They are
No.
not for keeping other people out. It's for you to have your own peaceful life. And it's for us to understand what that means to us. If you're somebody who, every day you're going to get up and you're going to meditate and you're going to do this, that is your boundary. You're like,
Hmm.
nope, I can't leave the house until I do this. And that's an okay boundary to have with yourself because that sets you up for a really great day
Yes. Yes.
you know and I realize for some folks, they've got teenagers or young kids running around at home and you can't always do that, but you really need to find a couple of minutes in your day for yourself where you can go outside, take a deep breath. Cynthia lives in Texas, I live in Arizona. It is still summer weather here. The rest of the
Hmm.
world I know has got sweater weather. We are
Yeah.
nowhere close to that at the
No,
moment. Our
not
AC
really.
is still running constantly. And but even with that, you got to get outside, take a deep breath, get some of that vitamin D from the sunshine. And
Yep.
because that helps to reset your nervous system. And that's what it is that you need to calm yourself. Because when we go on a tangent of, amping up and amping up and amping up, and then we get on our phone and now we're even more amped up
Hmm.
because it just, all of that is coming at you. And we don't have the attention span in midlife either that we used to
No.
have. Our ADHD, it's like somebody lit a fire under it and it's like, whoop, you know. So,
Yeah.
there's in my understanding is that there's multiple different kinds of ADHD, so everybody's different. Like my sister actually is diagnosed and hers is different than mine. And so we laugh because it's like what for her, I'm going to just use this as an example. She always thinks she can get more things done in an amount of time than she really can. Or she'll say, okay, you're ready to go. And I know that means she's got 15 more minutes before she's actually ready to walk out the door. And mine is the other way, where if I have something I have to do that day, I feel paralyzed that I can't do anything until I go do the thing that I've got to do at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Even though I've been up since 5 in the morning, I really have plenty of time to do XYZ. But in my head, I'm like, well, I can't. I got to be somewhere too.
Hmm. I'm like
And
that.
yeah, and so we laugh about it, and and we were chuckling because of just different things of it, how we, adapt. And so like even little things like that can be stress in your life. But if you can start to laugh at those kinds of things and realize, okay, is this really that big of a deal? Those kinds of things maybe aren't. So if you can
Yeah.
find that humor in it and kind of go with that, that's that can be helpful.
I know, definitely find the humor in it. That's finding the humor in it is also like a way to reconnect with yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, journaling practices and meditation and all that is all really well for you. But yeah, I would agree with you. Finding the humor in it finding like, even if it's just like, remember when, you know, we were having that conversation about, remember when we were supposed to be somewhere and then completely forgot.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've done
You know,
that. Like, oh Lord.
yeah, we cannot escape stress. Stress is a part of life,
Hmm.
because part of it is to motivate us. It gives us that ambition to continue to carry forward, to make, gains. It's how we handle it that is the part, where we, might wobble. And
Right.
that's okay to wobble. Like
Yeah.
at at this point of our, in our midlife, especially like if you were just coming into perimenopause, you are handling your lifestyle and your stresses differently, and it probably is leading you to think, I think I might be clinically depressed. And
Hmm.
you're not. It's just that there's these different ways of handling life now that you have
Hmm.
to start tackling differently,
Right.
better, and not pushing back into the background like you have for, a couple of decades.
Right. We'll link our handles below in the show notes. Is Cynthia and I had pulled cards for the Halloween week,
Mhm.
and we both got the same card for Friday, which was the sun.
Yeah.
And what it reminds us of is, also at this age, it's really important to start connecting back with our inner child, because
Yes.
we have taken on the role of being a responsible adult for such a long time that it's really important to bring the humor, the fun, the joy back into your life. And what
Yeah.
does that look like? I know for myself, having grandchildren, it makes it easier for me to bring that in, because I can play dress up with the kids, or I
Oh,
can go to the park, or various different things like that, or climb trees. I don't really climb a tree anymore, but I can help them climb the trees, and but they can only go so high because I'm only 5 foot 1.5, so I
it's
can't
only for
really
so
get
much
them
you can
out if
reach.
they're too high. But I get to look at that, and that's the one beauty of being a grandparent, is that I actually get to have the joy. When you are the parent, you have a lot more responsibility, because you're
Yeah.
you're responsible for their welfare and their moral compass, and all the things that go in between.
Hmm.
And and so it's like, if you can remember, to look at, what was that little, your 20 something or 30 something year old child, what were they like when they were 3? Bring that energy back in, because if
Yeah.
chances are you may not remember what you were like when you're 3, but what did little toddlers do? And not to go out there and all be willy-nilly and just say random stuff, but you know they don't, toddlers don't care
No, they
if
don't.
their hair is crazy, or if they just took a tumble, like, and they just kind of bounce up, like, oh. And as parents, we're like, oh, are we gonna cry? Where are we at with this? And if
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're like, and you're like, oh, okay, we're still good, right?
Yep.
And it's bringing that back to ourselves. Oh, we're still good. We're
We're
still
still
here.
good.
It's okay.
Yeah. No, I'd say take some of that toddler energy and run off in a different direction,
Yeah. Right.
because the things that probably brought you joy that you thought you wanted at this point in life might be vastly different. I mean, I think I saw an SNL skit or something like that, and it was about like, when you hit a certain age, and then now suddenly, like, all the names of the different birds. Like,
True.
I used to think my mom was crazy, because she's like, bird, a cardinal, a blue jay. And I'm just like, okay, bird lady. And now I'm bird lady. I'm just like, this
Oh
morning
my
I walked
gosh,
outside
right?
and I scared the birds, and I was like, oh my God, you guys, I'm so sorry.
I know, exactly. And it's like, it's funny because, I look like I buy Starbucks every day, and I don't, but I save my cup now. I'm like, oh, I've turned into that crazy old person. I save my cup and I reuse it now. I'm like,
Reuse
oh
it.
my gosh, I have now crossed over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But if you
when
can,
I start washing Ziploc bags, then somebody go ahead and just, put me in a moo and cart me off.
okay, yeah, well, we're gonna draw the line there. There are reasons they're disposable.
And yet I was this close
Of
to
course,
washing one yesterday.
I know. And I'm here. I'm here for it.
All the time.
But
Like, you go to her house and she's got a Ziploc bag that she's washed and turned inside out, and it's laying over the sink nozzle to dry.
to dry. Right? And I was like, "Oh, this is where we're at." And this isn't, and honestly, for me, it's not even a financial situation that I'm doing that for. I'm like, I don't want to clutter the environment. And, and so it's like those kinds of things that seem like they're innocuous, but I'm like, that kind of stresses me out. I'm like, I don't want to put all that plastic in the earth, and,
Yeah.
and we just, we just shift and change to what is.
Yeah, I guess you can add that to the stressors that you once upon a time didn't have that now suddenly that you do, is the
Right. Well, and it's so
washing
crazy,
bags.
right? Washing bags, because it's like, when your kids are little, you're hanging on for your life, right? It's like, it's like, that's the one thing that's really great now in midlife, is like you actually really get to understand yourself better and really
Yeah.
go, "Oh, that actually is not going to work for me." And
I think
that
it's
will work for me, because
yeah.
I've realized I'm not a night person, I am a morning person. So if you need me to babysit or do something at 6 in the morning, I am your girl. If you need me to start something at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I'm not it. Now, if there's an emergency, yeah, I can rally and I'll be there. But for just the fun of it, no, no.
Yeah, I'm a day pigeon. It's not really a night owl or a early bird, it's just day pigeon. So
I like it. I like it. Yeah.
that you're like unapologetic for, as you're getting later in your life. I think that that's part of it too, is
Hmm.
finding the things that bring you joy unapologetically,
Yes.
and recognizing those parts of yourself where you maybe once upon a time you were afraid that you were gonna catch judgment over it, and then now instead you're just like, this is me, this has always been me, I've just kind of hidden this
Uh-huh.
part because I didn't feel comfortable letting it, be more forward. And
Right.
now when you get to midlife, that's one of those stressors that you can let go of, is just you're not worried anymore about what the judgment is. And
Mhm.
then if you're in the right circle of people, they're in that same level with you. They're like, I don't give a shit.
Right, exactly, because it's like we do get to a point where it's like, "Okay, well, that's how it's working, all right."
Yeah.
And then I've gotta remember also, like, I do, you know, I don't like everybody either, so everybody's not gonna like me,
Yeah.
and why am I working, so hard, to make everybody like me, because we were talking, Cynthia and I were talking the other day about the funeral theory, and about, how who's really gonna show up. And,
Yep.
the 200 people out there in, the universe that, you've been trying to get to like you, they're not
Yep.
coming,
No.
so nourish yourself so that you can attract your inner circle.
Yeah. And if you're wondering what funeral theory is this theory that when you pass away, that on average, only 10 people will cry at your funeral or at your passing.
Mhm.
The number of people that show up to, if you have like a gathering, a celebration of life, the number of people that show up will be dependent on the weather, not on
Mhm.
how much they loved you or how you touched their lives. It will be dependent on the weather. And then there was another factor in there too about the number of people that like show up, or but what it comes down to with funeral theory is that you spend your entire life trying to, meet these expectations of others. And I'm not talking just about, the friendships that you're wanting to attract, or the
Right.
partners that you're wanting to attract, the people you're trying to impress at work, the people that you're, the PTA, you don't want your kids' friends to think you're the crazy mom, or what, whatever. Like all of these things that have kept you kind of like less than what you
Mhm.
really have wanted to be. And so in funeral theory, if you were to look at, okay, these are my last days, my days are numbered, what would I rather be doing? Who would I want to be with? How would
Mhm.
I want to be spending my time, and uh, who's worthy of it? And you will
Right.
find, like, it would be very eye-opening, maybe eye-opening in a sad way, but then also like, well, why then am I living my current life
Right.
not that way?
Exactly. And I know we talked a little bit about this in our previous show. So if you haven't seen it, you can go back and watch it.
Mhm.
But you get to a point when you get to midlife and you're like, okay, who am I living my life for?
Yeah.
Am I living my life for myself or am I living it for everybody else?
Yeah.
And you really
Right.
need to live your life for yourself
Yes.
because it's you need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of your well-being. And we just hold on to those stories. So it's like letting that stuff go and, accepting yourself for who you are, accepting others for who they are. That doesn't mean they deserve a seat at your table,
No.
but you can allow them to be who they are. Kind of going with the Mel Robbins, let them,
Let
let
them
them,
theory. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So making these changes, addressing the people that are in your life, who you allow, how you spend your time, what you're doing for yourself, all of these things are ways that you can help yourself in how you deal with your stress and
Mhm.
keeping it, do you keep it as like an adaptive stress or does it become a maladaptive stress that then later becomes overwhelm?
Right.
Those are all the things right there, and one of those things to help you remove yourself from that place of overwhelm is to just keep on keeping on and be sure that you are doing the things that you need to do for yourself. And if it means that you need to go in the closet and like grab a pillow and just scream into it and then come out and be like, okay, let's go.
Okay. I can face the rest of the day, right?
Yes,
Or
then by all means, friends, do what you got to do, but
absolutely.
do not let life get so super duper heavy on you, especially, during these times. It's very easy to happen. So, you know, us speaking from places of, love and that we have been there, done that.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. It's understanding how you can care for yourself when different phases and stages of your kids'
Yes.
lives come across. Like, I know I was so excited when my kids got married, but it was also another stress for me, like, oh, wow, they really don't need me because I didn't have my own life, really. Everything was being lived through them and for them. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize the amount of stress that caused. And I remember somebody asked me, like, well, what do you like to do? And I was like, oh, uh,
Yeah.
uh, uh. So that's why it's so important to figure out
Mm-hmm.
your,
What brings you
what
joy?
what brings you joy. It comes back to that, and making the stressors adaptive to
Mm-hmm.
how you want to live your life and how you can best manage. Because again, stuff is going to happen that we
Yep.
have no control
Yep.
over. Sadly, people get ill, things happen. Jobs can get lost, relationships can break down. And, what are your tools?
Yep. What are your tools to help you manage this stress?
Right.
All right, folks, we hope that you enjoyed today's show. And if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. We would love to hear from you. How are you handling your stress in midlife? Maybe there are things that you would like to do better, and we're here for you. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.